Jesus, I'm not even religious. I have to keep this near my mouth, says every dominant to me. No, that's a joke. I have to keep this near my mouth because I clearly don't have a loud enough voice, which is fairly fucking shocking if I put it down here. So I'm going to do this. Hello, everyone. If you haven't met me, my name is Deb. Been around for a while, very tired and old. Oh, God. I write under the pseudonym on FetLife of the Kink Shrink, and it is my main area of work, really. I'm a psychologist. I work with people, I work with families, I work with children, I work with most things, really. And I would say 70% of my client base is kinky because they don't want to be judged for being kinky. They want to sort their shit out without it being blamed on kink. That said, sometimes I do say, why the fuck are you doing that? Because you do, don't you? So if you don't know about these sessions, they're about an hour and a half. So fuck me if you get a bit bored or you need a wee, just go. I will not take it offensively at all. And you can always come back in, don't worry, if you go and get a drink or whatever. It's a Q&A session. So basically you can ask me anything you want to. Well, within reason, come on. About anything to do with kink, anything to do with the psychology of kink, anything to do with mental health, anything to do with polyamory, anything to do with communication. And in theory, I might know the answer. Is anyone here a psychologist, counsellor, psychotherapist, anything like that at all? Into neuroscience or epigenetics? No, I can make shit up then? That's good. Few. But if you are and you're just saying, I'm not putting my fucking hand up, that's fine. You can DM me and ask me for a certificate because the certificates cost a fortune for any career development kind of certificate or practice that you want to get. You're spending 60 to 100 quid for a few hours. So this one, you just write to me and I'll chuck you one over. So the idea of this is that they're Q&A. They were started, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. I still think COVID was a Marvel blip. People just disappeared for 2 years and we all came back and everything was the same. That's the way I see it. So the idea was that we'd run them down to nothing when people didn't have any questions anymore, but that's never happened yet. So I'm very grateful. It normally starts off with people just looking at me when I say, have you got a question? People go, I'm not fucking looking at her or asking anything. That's how it starts 9 times out of 10. And then by the time it gets going, there's quite a few questions. And then you might grab me afterwards and say, hey, but let's try and do it here if we can. That would be really nice. So it is over to you. Has anyone got a question or something that they would like to ask? Everyone goes, as always.
Did you start out being a therapist in the kink area, or is that a gradual move?
Right, so did I start being a kink-based therapist, or was that a gradual move? So I've been submissive and kinky since I was 17, and I'm 61 in June. So that's what, 43 odd years, nearly 44? All right, fuck off if you're younger than that, that's fine. So I've been alternative and kinky for all of my adult life, longer having done that than been without. And I was going to do law or performance arts. My dad, being quite Jewish, was very much for the law. I went for performance arts, which didn't please him at all. And I did things like on the West End, like Starlight Express, and I worked with people like Spike Milligan. Half of you won't even know who that is, that's fine. And different people, and my knees were really damaged, and I thought, fuck, what do I do, especially after Starlight? And I thought, do you know what, I'm going to do an MBA. So I did an MBA, business, was a man management consultant, what's what they were called way back then, for a couple of years, and thought, I really hate this. I hate the corporate aspect of it. I don't like it. It pays really well, takes over your life. And then I thought, actually, everyone was saying to me, oh, you're really good with people. Why don't you work with people? That'd be a good idea. And I went, okay, I'll work with people. And I decided that I would do an MSc in psychotherapy. And then since then, after doing my MSc, I've got about 24 years worth of qualifications that I've done in all sorts, like psychosexual psychotherapy, trauma, families, everything, you name it. The kink thing, when I sort of like, when my kids were younger, I was like, oh no, I can't really mix the two because I didn't want to be seen too much as that. And there are no, has anyone here ever gone or looked for therapy? You don't have to put your hand up or anything, but like if you have, it's really difficult, isn't it? How do you find out if your therapist is kink what? We look for kink friendly, we look for kink aware, we look for kink practicing, we look for lots of things. And I think the problem is when a lot of us go into it, we're not always open, whereas I'm fully out. I've been outed at least 4 or 5 times in my life, but I'm fully out. Everyone I know knows who I am. I work with children as well, but everybody's family knows. So nothing comes back at me, although people have tried, really have tried. So you can't qualify in kink. As close as you can get to it is maybe doing a GSDR, which is like gender, sex, and relationships, the diversity of those with pink therapy. There isn't anything that qualifies you properly in kink, although I have been speaking to Dominic, who runs pink therapy, who's someone I know, about writing a set of courses so people can actually take proper kink qualifications to say that I'm as qualified as I can be. There are places saying, I will qualify you in kink, but they're not registered with anybody. It's really difficult. So for me, it was, I said about 10, 11 years ago, I said to David, nobody runs a workshop in psychology in the kink arena. Nobody does it. It's not, hasn't been done. And I said, should we do one? Like, would you mind? I'll come along. And if it's shit, it's fine. If it's not popular, it's fine. Fuck me, it was flooded and I got the most difficult questions ever. It was really complex. And then by the end of the evening, it was, well, do you want to come back next month? And let's just do them and see how they go. And we'll run them down to nothing until they're not attended at all. And that hasn't happened in those years. So it was me putting my interest in psychology and us. I read everything that Tashra does or anyone else as well, because again, there are no qualifications. There really aren't. So the closest you can be qualified in is maybe some form of trauma, some form of psychosexual. That's about it. That's as close as you get. So there isn't anything. So I just decided I would do it. And then started writing, started researching, and I've got about 720 writings on FetLife. So what I try and do now is make sure that they're all fully referenced and researched, because it's really important to me that education comes out as this is fact, this is science, this is researched, this is my opinion, this is my experience, and if I can match the two, great, and if I can't, I also state that as well, that this isn't research, this is just my opinion. So there's a slight difference. And then I'm also neurodivergent, I'm ADHD, autism, fully diagnosed, have been for quite a while. So I always look at the intersections and the crossovers with that as well. And I run workshops online. I did last week, did one on trauma and the intersection with kink and how we should best handle it. And then I'm doing one on Tuesday, which is my one, which is also free of charge once a month. I do it on Zoom. And this one is how to communicate without ruining a power exchange dynamic, how to get through conflict. So it's kind of, it just seemed to be a quite a smooth transition. But anyone who tells you they're qualified in kink, it's just a heap of shit. But also in the UK, if anyone tells you they're a registered therapist, that's also a heap of shit. Because you do not have to be qualified in the UK. So let me just get that through really importantly. And people say, but I'm a member of the BACP, or I'm a member of this, or I'm a member of that. There are 38 plus potential governing bodies for therapy. When the government works out which one will be the legal requirement, I will join that one. But until then, the rest are just peer-driven, and they cost quite a lot of money for people to join. But people often use it as a blanket to say, oh yes, I'm a registered therapist. That's just not true. We're not registered in the UK at all. So, I mean, I have lots of clients from America who, and funny enough, I've got a power exchange couple who own a psychology business. Blows my head, really. It does, blows my mind, as in and they see me, I see them as a couple and individually, which I can do while I'm doing that. And you're like, no, I'm sure you should know this. Or, okay. And it's really interesting to do and to watch because a lot of people don't know this field at all, really. If you see anyone and you end up educating them about this, they're not doing their job. They find someone else, let them do the research in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, it was more of a sideways move. I just noticed that nothing was happening, and I think loads of people do them now, like they're done near enough everywhere, which is pretty cool. I love that. Always a chance to learn. That's a good thing. So, it was more of an accident. But to be a counsellor in the UK, I mean, again, you don't have to call yourself anything. So I can call myself a miracle worker, and that's legal. I can call myself a mind changer. I can call myself a psychologist. There are protected terms, counselling psychologist, psychologist as long as you're registered with the BPS and a few others. So there are some licensed titles, but the rest of them, there aren't. So it does depend who you see. So I would check if ever you decide to go for anything. And also, I've watched people run workshops when I watch them say things and I think, what the fuck are they saying? Fuck. Like, I remember a guy standing up once and he was talking about what used to be called many different things. So we used to call it multiple personality disorder, or DID is what we call it now. It's been called many things, like films like Split, when people have multiple identities. And this guy was standing up talking about how one of his partners has DID and he loves it if they switch in the middle of a scene because he's with a new person. And I was like, no, hang on, have you got their consent as well? Because they're quite separate individuals when you work with DID. And my best friend, Poppy, who is also a therapist, we both sort of said, we might have a problem with that. And he was like, what the fuck do you know it? More than you cunt. You should not be doing that. Because it was really shocking. Like, if you've got each altar's permission, that's totally different. But if you haven't, Jesus Christ. Like, you could wake up in the middle as someone else entirely and not have a memory of the last hour and wonder what the fuck is happening to you. So you need everybody's consent and you need to know them all within that person. So I've seen some horrific workshops in my time where I just sort of go, it's like fake news, though, isn't it? You can see it all over the place now, can't you? Everything is fact. We saw it around COVID. You see all that news around. And there's a lot of that around psychology. And a lot of AI is dipping into psychology. And AI is fantastic to give you a few exercises, to teach you a few bits and pieces. But to really test your mind and change who you are, you need another mind with you that's going to do that, which is different to reading a book or asking AI to help you. And it can, to a certain extent. It's only a certain extent, though. I don't think that's registered either as a psychologist anywhere. Not yet. But that's my very strange journey. Theatre, man management into psychology. And they're all kind of connected, really, aren't they? But we like a lot of theatre, don't we? Are any of you sort of like exhibitionists and like showing off? Some of us? Some of us not so much, but like, what part am I? Who am I? Is this me fundamentally, or do I need to put on a show? And man management, yeah, that's the same. There's so much in there as well of what we do. And then the psychology. But, I mean, I remember doing my psychosexual psychotherapy, and I just thought, this is supposed to qualify you to be able to talk to kinky people and polyamorous people. Guess how long, as part of the 2-year course, covered kink and polyamory? It was 2 days, one of each, roughly, and that's just ridiculous. I don't know what that qualifies anyone for. Yeah, absolutely not. But you live and you learn, don't you? It's like, oh, God. And I wanted to do, you have to do like a dissertation at the end, and I really wanted to do it on, I've looked at doing 2 PhDs. This is so boring, I've said this before. I've looked at doing 2 PhDs. I'm not going to. It costs a fortune. And although Dr. Deb of Kink would be quite cool as a title, but it's not worth it in the UK. It doesn't qualify for you anything, and it's very specific. And I've looked at the transgenerational and epigenetic scripting of sexually submissive women, and I've looked at the principle of withdrawal of consent as moral shame, which is a certain shame that certain people feel, doctors, nurses, medical people, like your fire officer, people like that, when they do something that goes against the grain. And it came up massively in COVID when people were having to say they get the oxygen, they don't. That's moral shame, like when you think, fuck, I've killed someone, or if you're a soldier or anything like that. So I quite like to do those. And I was like, oh, I'll do one of those as my dissertation. They went, no, you have to pull it out the hat and do it on erectile dysfunction. It's all out there though, like, or so many different things like vaginismus. All the research is out there for all of those. It isn't for this, but they weren't interested. So people are quite close-minded still on the things that we're allowed to cover, sadly. Sadly. Anyone got a question about kink, about mental health, about well-being, about communication, about relationships, about the psychology of us, about the law of us? So do I have any thoughts on the source of fetishes, the nature versus nurture? So that's an interesting one because your question was fetish. Kink or fetish. So fetish is different to kink. Does anyone know the difference between a kink and a fetish? Sorry? So a fetish is needed. It's an absolute requirement, specifically or normally to orgasm or for sexual arousal. So a fetish is I must see heels in order to feel this, in order to get turned on or in order to orgasm. Whereas kink is stuff that you're into, we love it, we like it. We don't necessarily need it to be aroused. It can help. We get aroused because of it. There's a different order there, if that makes sense. So am I into nature or nurture? Who knows me? Both. So I think massively there are epigenetics and genetics involved. Hence, I wanted to look at the transgenerational and epigenetic scripting of sexually submissive women. So when you look at extreme circumstances that happen to people, when you have something traumatic happening to you, and traumatic is a very personal phrase, someone else's trauma is someone else's walk in the park. So trauma isn't something that happens to you, trauma is the way you respond to it inside out. So you can have two people of very similar history. One of them is traumatized, one of them is not. That's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong, it just is. So trauma is the way you respond to something inside out, not what actually happens to you, if that makes sense. And then you've got different forms of trauma as well, whether it's a one-off big situation like a bomb or an attack, a rape, a sexual assault. And then you've got consistent trauma over time, like neglect or abuse as a child, or abuse in like domestic violence and things. So they're differentiated between. And then you've got complex PTSD, you've got PTSD, and you've got a hell of a lot more. So there's a lot of forms of trauma that there are. But when you experience anything that you experience as a trauma, it actually changes the methylation, the way you read your own DNA. So if you imagine your DNA is a book and it said you are going to have blue eyes, you're going to have blue eyes and red hair. Now, you're already genetically pretty different to everyone else in this room. You have different approaches, and in fact, anyone who anaesthetizes you should check your pain thresholds. They'll be very different to other people. You'll respond differently to dental injections, to anesthetic, and to pain in different ways, because your gene is a slightly mutated gene to create red hair. And that causes issues with pain, which is incredible because a lot of people don't know that. I need a hell of a lot more anesthetic, or I need this, or I need that. And you'll respond really differently, for example, to electric pain here. So if you get hurt with a violet wand, but of course, you're obviously red-headed with that gene. Some people, it only comes out in their beards or different hair sometimes, but they might have that same gene. So genes are really interesting about how that impacts us. So the way you read your gene from, like, if you imagine you've got like a book that says you're going to come out with red hair and blue eyes. When something happens to somebody that they experience in a certain way, you read your genes differently. That's what epigenetics does. It creates a protein and it's the way it comes through. So a lot of your shit might be your great-great-great-grandparents. It's not even yours, for fuck's sake. But it's amazing the impact that it has on us. And then the curiosity then is, and there's a lot more research going into this at the moment, that kink is probably transferred in some way genetically, probably through epigenetics. If you've got problems with epigenetics, like you've got a phobia or something isn't particularly good that's been passed down, you can change it. That's what's also interesting. So epigenetics are reversible, depending. I'm going to put a slight proviso in that one. But it's also about nurture. If you think about things like ADHD and autism, for example, 0.89 heritability, very likely if you are diagnosed that your children, if you have them, will be diagnosed at some point. 0.89 heritability is not a joke. And then you've got people like Gabriel Marcy saying, yes, but it isn't a specific gene. We fucking know it isn't a specific gene. The latest research shows it's about 36 of the motherfuckers that are involved. And they have a massive correlation. We've got MTHFR genes. Mine's wonky, for example. That's very normal in somebody who's neurodivergent. And then we've got things like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. We've got the trifecta. We've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is normally heads not just being bendy. We've got MCAS, so mast cell activation system, and then we've got POTS and other things that all tend to happen to people with ADHD and autism that are neurodiverse. So those things are very genetic. However, if you're brought up by a genetic twisted mutant like me, for example, it might mean that the way I'm going to bring you up is slightly differently to my very neurotypical friend over there. So our upbringing is by other. Therefore, we might be impacted, and we might be impacted really positively. It might be that we're brilliant with our kids if they're neurodivergent because we talk about... I'm not saying... Oh, God, about 10 people are about to walk out. So when we... It's really difficult to parent, right? Anyone a parent here? It's really fucking difficult to parent. And I just think it's getting fucking worse because you are so judged by the way that you parent. There are so many things telling you how to parent. And some of them are so wrong psychologically by all the research that we found out. And actually kids with neurodivergence actually need boundaries, need consequences. They need a shit ton of nurture as well. And there is a way to do that. But if you just say, no, fucking hell, or yes, it doesn't matter, you've got ADHD, you can behave as badly as you like. Both of those are really bad. There's a point in the middle about how the environment makes a difference. And the best example of that, if we take neurodivergence out of it entirely, and I've forgotten his name off the top of my head, if anybody knows, there was a professor who taught university courses about how serial killers were born. And we also know, for example, there's a violent gene. And most people in prison have the violent gene, and it's mainly more men than women. If we're going to go for the definition of male, female, just for now, for that, because I'm very aware, and I do not class everybody as man, woman. Massive spectrum. However, what's interesting is that over 80% of our jail population has this violent gene, as an example. So genetics really does come into it. So he was teaching that serial killers were born and not made. He had shit tons of fMRI scans all the time. He was teaching. For years, this course was going on. And then he did some work on his own family because they were all showing sign, or some were showing sign of Alzheimer's and different things at the time. They were looking at the brain scans. He does the classic, whoops, I've mixed them all up one day. And this is so crazy, you can look it up. He puts up a brain scan and he says, right, so if you look here, you can see this is why this person, and he's talking about this person being a serial killer. And he looks at it and he goes, fucking hell, that's my name. It was his own fucking brain scan. Why can't I remember his name? Are you looking it up?
The psychopath in me.
The psychopath, or the neurodivergent, or whatever. Listen, if you're in a plane crash and you've got a really decent psychopath there, follow them. They're the most likely to survive. They won't wait for you, but follow them. So we all think these things are really negative. They're not. Not necessarily anyway. So what was interesting is when he then had a look, it turns out his grandmother or his great-grandmother or an aunt or something was actually a serial killer. Yeah. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Bowden.
No, that's
That's the
name of
aunt.
famous serial killer.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there was definitely murder in his family. And he was really aware that he wasn't very empathic. He was really aware that he wasn't always the kindest or the most gentle. He was very intolerant of people and sort of fucking idiots, like quite a lot, you know. Probably should put them through a mincer or something. I'm sure he didn't think that, but that's just my addition to it. James Fallon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Psychopath Inside.
Psychopath Insight. It's a book as well, isn't it? Because it's so interesting. And so what he then did was he had to clearly cancel his fucking uni course because he's just got that wrong. But what he realised is he had a loving enough upbringing that none of those things got triggered, or I hate the word triggered. I really hate the word triggered. I prefer patterns and predictors even more than activated, because I hear activated as well. But activated and triggered to me means somebody outside does something to you. Whereas to me, the way you get your power from, if you feel that, wow, that's part of my pattern and that's what I predict is going to happen, and then you do that, you have more power over your own patterns and predictors because you can change them. Whereas if you're activated or triggered, that gives somebody external to you the power, because you can help with those things. Like, you really can. The research proves it. So there's a really good, is it Angela Bassett does a really good TED talk on patterns, the way people's brains work and how we predict things and what we do. And that's totally to do with your upbringing. You might basically have a neurodivergent, a neurotypical. You might have a brain that's got some predilection for something, but what we experience impacts that. So he realised he'd had enough of a loving upbringing that meant none of that was in his life, which is mad, isn't it, when you think about it? He'd literally just been doing a uni course telling everyone it was the opposite. And then by his own brain scan mistake, he had to completely look at it again. So for us, there's a lot of stuff. So like if we go back, I was born in 65. So I was part of those marches. I was part of a lot of the community of rights. Rights for, it was very much lesbians and gays back then. You were bi. If you were bi, you were a bit of a traitor because you couldn't really decide. Like, you hadn't really come out totally. Not acceptable if you were bi. It was a very different time. And kink, again, there wasn't a lot around very openly. It still happened, but it was much more on the gay scene, male gay scene, than it was anywhere else. Gosh, you go back and you can look at handkerchiefs in pockets giving codes as to what you were into and stuff, and they're still used today. I'm into fisting, one colour. I'm into piss play, guess that colour. There's lots of them to like, and you wear them to show what you're into and accessibility. Red, no, don't say that, that's a handkerchief, I'm in. So it wasn't around in the same time. And at the same time, I was also watching a lot of my friends, especially doing performing arts degree, I was watching my friends dying from what was considered gay cancer at the time, which clearly was HIV leading on to AIDS, really. I was watching a lot of my friends dying, and actually people wouldn't even then come near me, because if I went into the hospital to work with them, and that's the first counselling course I ever did, which was ridiculous and it was a joke, it was to work with men who were gay dying of gay cancer, which was such a heap of shit. But the turn against that as well was horrific. So in that time as well, it was just a very, very different time about why we do things and our rights and how it is. And I remember back then, when you go back, you're fighting to prove that you're born gay. You're not made gay by something that happens to you. You know it's in you. And there was a lot of fighting, and that's now been proven a lot more. And there's a lot of research around kink to do the same. There is also a branch saying that kink, for some people, some of the time, is a pastime or a hobby or an activity. So you're going to know which one you are more. This is fundamental to me. It needs to be in all my relationships. It's not going to work unless it's there. If I can pick it up and leave it, I might be more of the hobbyist. And I think both of those things can be true. It's like having that argument over, is the world monogamous or is the world polyamorous? And I've really if you are polyamorous and you're about to have an argument with me right now, I tell you now, if you turn around and say, but I'm polyamorous and that's a higher form of being than monogamy, or it's the way forward, or you have to think about it. Fucking bullshit. People are monogamous and or polyamorous. Both are fucking awesome. Just do the one that's right for you. And it's the same in nature. I can have an argument with anyone and I can show you about 40 to 50 different forms of species that do both, because they do. And it's what works. And it might be evolutionary for some species, and it might not be, and it might be for us. But actually, if you really want evolution, if you want to check the stats nowadays, we ain't going polyamorous. It might feel like we are, we're going single. More people are single than they ever have been. We're having less sex than we ever have had. We're more disassociated, we're more disconnected, we've got less friends than we ever had. It's really hard to find a partner if that's what you want. So it's really interesting. So we're not evolving into polyamory, we're evolving into fucking singledom and loneliness, which is a really big comorbidity with death, just saying. So it's not healthy to feel lonely. And of course you can feel lonely in a relationship as well. I totally get that. You might feel lonely even in this crowd of people. But it is interesting. So for me, it's definitely both. I don't know if I've answered that enough for you, though. I don't know if I've covered it with science.
I was going to ask a different one on, you mentioned halostandrous and hypermobility. What are the cautions for sort of kink and dealing with people or working with people?
Did you hear that? I mentioned hypermobility and I mentioned Ehlers-Danlos, but I mentioned heads, of which there are many versions. Anyone here have heads or hypermobility in any way, shape or form? Would you know if you did or didn't even? It's really interesting because I was at my daughter's cheerleading gym this morning and I saw an old friend and he's being looked at for ADHD. And I said, have you got Ehlers-Danlos as well? Or POTS or MCAS? And he just went, what? And it's an interesting one because there's the Brayton scale that you can do, and that's how flexible and bendy you are. That's skin, that's joints. Can any of you put your fingers up crazily or lock your fingers back or lock your elbows out? So they go backwards. Is your skin, if you pull it up, does it go more than 2 centimetres? Like that. Like that. But really, what's interesting is Ehlers-Danlos, you actually, although it's named after the person that found it, and there is one that is lethal, you're very likely to die before the age of 30 because your organs can't stay in the right place. It's a connective tissue disorder, and it presents itself in many ways, but MCAS, POTS, and Ehlers-Danlos are the trifecta. They often come together. There's loads of arguments about it. They have a huge impact on play. They have a huge impact on kink and communication if we think about that's great. So what we've got here is Opal Fruit, right? Opal Fruit does the rope workshop. Opal Fruit loves to tie people up. It's much easier to tie somebody up who can still do the fucking splits or put their leg up over here and not worry about it. So, for a 60-year-old woman who has no estrogen in her body, because I've had breast cancer and skin cancer, so I have no estrogen, I should not be able to do the splits. I should not be able to sit with my knees forward. I should not still be able to easily touch my toes or any of those things because I have no I just don't have any estrogen in my body because I take estrogen blockers to stop the sort of breast cancer that I had. But I can because I have hypermobility. But hypermobility can lead to it's gut issues, it's migraines, it's vomiting, it's diarrhea, it's constipation, it's hearts, it's...
Can it be delayed pain?
Can it be delayed pain? Absolutely. But it's a really weird neuropathic pain pathway. So a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos will pop a joint without even thinking about it. They don't even know they're doing it. They reach up and they hear a click, click, and they go, never even realise. But they're actually subluxing or potentially dislocating their joints all the time, which causes long-term damage. The way Ehlers-Danlos, when it's like that, then sends messages through the body about pain, this is really annoying, is you can go, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, but there's no cause for it. Or it can delay pain messages. It can do and the other problem with hypermobility and heads, let's say, is that you don't even know you're causing damage or pain because there can be none. But there are a few things and tests you can do. But yeah, it has a huge impact. as I said, my daughter runs a cheerleading gym. I would argue that most of our little flyers who are really bendy kids probably have some form of heads. When you look at those kids or those adults who come on and they can sit like that and put their feet over and do the whole circle round, and everyone goes, oh my God! You should be going, oh my God, because they're going to be fucked later. You have to develop so much strength to go against the hypermobility. It's outrageous. But you're forever popping a joint or something. You can sublux, you can be in pain, you can vomit. There are so many symptoms that come with it and of the different types that there are. But anyone here tie anyone else ever? Do you tie people? Please make it part of your vocabulary. When you tie someone, can you tell me if you have any form of hypermobility or Ehlers-Danlos in any way, shape or form? Because if you go, this is so cool, I can just lift up their whatever, like, yes, that's very cool, but the long-term damage to their joints and different things, look, it's not your fault, why would we know? But they will end up with long-term damage, unless they've also got the strength to counter it, if that makes sense. So it should be a standard question. And if you don't know about it, go and look it up. HEDS, Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility, look it up, because they're often slightly shorter. I'm 5'4". Variety of weights, actually, it varies. They'll often have quite an indented chin here, interestingly, and a little hyperextended chin sometimes. There are some physical characteristics that some people with Ehlers-Danlos have, but not all by far. But please check, because even when you're tying them without realising, the goal is not to cause any nerve damage. But of course, if someone subluxes and doesn't even know, and they catch a nerve or they catch a tendon or anything, that's long-term damage. Like, for example, I've got this on, that's to do with my joints. But at the same time, I can't feel these 3 fingers properly. They're quite numb. And they've been numb for about 6 months. Your nerves repair by about 1 millimetre a day when you've got damage. So my nerve from up here has somehow got hurt. I have no idea, because this happens all the time, especially if you're neurodivergent. You go, God, that's a horrific bruise. How did I do that? Or, oh, it's a bit of me falling off. How did that happen? I have no idea. I must have walked into a wall again, because you don't realise, and there's a lot of damage that's done. But this, it was investigated, and it was quite funny at the time, because they actually then found a hot patch on my rib. And this just shows the same sort of thing. So they saw a hot patch on my rib, and they were like, fuck, she's got secondary cancer. So I was tested for secondary cancer with this hot spot. But no, turns out I'd broken a rib, and I hadn't even realised. Didn't even feel it, didn't know. And that's one of the problems with hypermobility and or neurodivergence. I felt a little bit sore. I was like, no, it's fine though. I don't understand. If I really poke it really fucking hurts. Yeah, it was broken. So they could see it afterwards, but you don't always know. So it's really important to find out if somebody has any form of hypermobility. Because if they're flexible, especially if they don't do a lot of exercise, or there isn't a reason for it. You have another question. Is that enough about Ehlers-Danlos? Is that right for you? Do you want to use this, or?
Makeup brush.
So the question is about polyamory, and the question is, can you just talk something about the transition from a long-term monogamous relationship into polyamory? Just anything that comes to your mind.
I think what you've got to ask is, do you think you were always polyamorous? You were always interested in this, or was there social you felt you should conform or do something? You should get married, have 2.2 children, a dog, and the white picket fence. Have you always felt drawn to it? So I think why you're going into polyamory is really important. So if you've been in an established relationship for a really long time, why now? That's a big one to talk about, and I really suggest going to see someone. Couples often do, because we don't think about the consequences. Why now? What's happening in your relationship that you want to go outside? It's not right or wrong, it's the understanding of it. It's also, there are so many books, there are so many websites on the things that come up. It's a huge transition from going to I love one person to I love multiple people, or I have sex with multiple people. Are we sexually, so are we more polysexual? Are we talking about love and affection? Are we talking about time? The one people always forget is, are we talking about money? People always forget money in polyamory, and I don't know why. Like, if you've been living together for years, you've got joint bank accounts, we're going to open up our relationship. You also need to talk about the expectations. Who's going to get cunt, cock, or whatever it is that they want? Who's more likely to get it? And we have these interesting misconceptions about, God, they're going to find it so easy to meet lots of people. It isn't that easy. And for a couple, when you're opening up, it can be that one of you ends up with 3 or 4 partners and one of you ends up without a partner for about a year. What about that? What's going to happen? And we need to talk about jealousy. We need to talk about the rules that we have, but are they rules or are they guidelines? Because then we're talking about couples privilege, which is also okay. I am hierarchical in my polyamory. I absolutely am. And that's all right by me. There's a lot of judgment against hierarchy nowadays. Judge away. I'm happy with that. That's what I do. I'm a cut queen, which is slightly different in that I like the person I love and my partner fucking other people and coming back and telling me how good it was. They often say, oh, can you get her for me then? No, she falls in love with me, not you then. I'll tell you that much. And, oh, can you be there? Well, that's a threesome. Yes, sometimes, but not all the time. Because my imagination is probably better than you are, whatever it is that you're doing. Sorry. Often the way. So when my imagination works, oh, if I ever wank to those thoughts, I'm coming in under a minute. It's incredible. But that's my thing. It's what turns me on. But there are rules for me in my relationships, and I'm fucking respectful of anyone else who's involved. So you can have rules that are hierarchical and still be very respectful. So you've got to ask why. You've got to look at all the implications of it. You will be jealous, probably. It's statistically very likely. There's nothing wrong with jealousy. Jealousy is a fear of loss. Shit, I'm going to lose that person. That's what jealousy is. We often mistake jealousy and envy. We mix them up, whereas envy is, God, I want that. I wish I had that. I want one of those. But we say, oh, I'm so jealous. No, you're not. You're not losing anything. When we're jealous, we're frightened we're going to lose something. So again, we need to have those discussions. And when I work with couples who are opening up, I kind of do a whole set of like, what are your bronzes, your silvers, and your golds? Even in your relationship, like put the toilet seat up or down, put the spoon in the dishwasher, who's taking out the recycling, because they're some of the biggest arguments that couples have, actually. And I think as psychologists, psychotherapists, as counsellors, we also get it really wrong. When you come to see someone like me, we say, you need communication skills. Here you go, learn these. When you've had a rupture in a relationship, before you go into communication skills, you need connection. So how do we stay connected? What is it that we're doing? What are the rituals we're putting into place to keep us connected when you come back in, when you leave? The money does need discussing. If you've got one person, anyone eating out recently? Been to a restaurant? How much did it cost you for the evening for a meal for 2? Loads. I mean, I don't like the food here. I don't like the food here. I think it's shit and the service is terrible. So I quite like going over the road. But it's like 50 quid for a roast. Fucking I'm going over there anytime I want to. It's gorgeous. I like the service. It's really nice. I'm a pretentious cunt. It's my money. Why can't I spend it? However, if I'm dating somebody out of our relationship, not that I'm in one, but when I'm in one, because I'm really fucking fussy, terrible. I would not want to be in a relationship with me. So when that happens, if I'm spending 50 quid on me and 50 quid on them, and then maybe you've got a hotel for the night, maybe one of your guides is you can't bring the person back, maybe you've got children, maybe it's you can but only in the spare room, don't fuck them over my sheets. It can be many things, have a shower before, whatever, but we rarely talk about the money. And all of a sudden, you're going on 2 to 3 dates a week, potentially, and you're spending, what, 300? Could someone just out of nowhere become poly and spend £300 a week? So that's 1,200 quid a month right now. Could anyone do that? It's a lot of money, isn't it? And I'm not saying you're going to do that every time, but that needs discussing as well. What's the budget? What's the impact on us? Toys, rules around toys. I don't want your fucking toys. your fucking toys and your toys. I've written many a thing about how to clean toys. They're not easy to clean. I have a wardrobe of toys because I've got so many after all the years. It's a massive wardrobe. You can use any of that on me. We can get separate things for someone else. I don't want blood, sweat. I don't want someone else's, especially with a compromised immune system as well. I don't want somebody else's bacteria, anything. I don't want it. And I'm not that fussy. Jesus Christ, I drink piss, so I can't be that bad. So I don't, by the way, if you ever have a partner who has chemo, I hope you remember this rule for the rest of your life. Do not drink their piss for 3 to 5 days after they've had chemo, because guess what you're drinking? You're drinking chemotherapy. Please be aware of that. Because the amount of people I meet, or like I get cold sores, HSV1. The amount of people who said to me, you can still give me a blowjob, it won't give me a cold sore. Are you fucking nuts? Are you mad? I don't think you understand some of these things. There is no such thing as safe sex, but we need to talk about safer sex, because HSV, HPV, we can just get by rubbing up against somebody else. We can get many things just by being near somebody else or kissing or anything. So what are the rules? What are the rules around safe sex? What are the rules around if somebody gets pregnant? If somebody brings an STI home, let alone the money, are we coming out to our family? Are they, so like, they've been in an established relationship. So in one of my past relationships, the three of us, we were together for 5 years. It was a closed triad. Male dom, 2 female submissives. All really intimate and close. I was very out about her. And once when she went into hospital, she put me down as the next of kin, which her mother really didn't like. So are you ready for those arguments? What does it mean? How open are we being? And she lived with him and she lived with me and we all lived together. Again, are we okay with that? What does that look like? What does that mean? Am I protecting this person if I'm in a long-term relationship with them? Are they going to be named on my pension? Are they going to be one of my beneficiaries for my life insurance? And when you're in really long-term relationships, that is the sort of shit you have to start thinking about, because for most of us, it isn't legal to get married 2 or 3 times. And people aren't recognised, and children aren't recognised. Even if we go back 50 years, very different, admittedly, but it was still around. Anyone seen Professor Marsden and his Wonder Women, the film? I love that film so much. It's a true story. It's based on a professor a psychologist whose wife was also a psychologist, not as recognised as him, clearly, because she couldn't study in the same places, she couldn't get the same results. And they fell in love with another woman between them, who ended up as a massive person in their relationship. But even back then, the way it was, like, they both had children from him. But one was married to him, one was not. They had to make lies up about how their relationship worked and what it was. And what's interesting, I'm about to ruin it for you, is that he actually dies. And he dies not very soon into their relationship. I think it's 10, 12 years, something like that. I think they've got 2 children each, something like that. But they all live together. But the 2 of the women stayed together until they died for tens of years afterwards. They had the most beautiful, intimate relationship. So again, are we prepared for that? Do we tell our children? Do we tell our grandparents? Are they coming to the family fucking barbecue, and how are you going to explain it? What are the rules? And what if someone does out you? What if someone outs you at work? What if someone outs you? Look, it's never as bad. If you're outed as a polyamorous person who's having sex with multiple people, we can say it's consensual, and that's more acceptable than if you're a fucking pervert, which then goes into a paedophile very, very, very quickly. Don't know if anyone here has ever been outed. It's really shocking what happens publicly. I put a littles event on twice. My daughter had a secondary business. It was a soft play business. I did it for littles. It was really gorgeous. I can't tell you how fucking beautiful the people were that attended. They were articulate, intelligent, kind. Was that an argument? I do couples therapy. Right, so it was awful. But then one of the staff who was demoted the week before in between the first and the second one, she went to the Sun newspaper. You can still look it up now. The things that were said, it ruins the business, but the things that were said were horrific. They're only there for the children. There must have been spunk everywhere, because clearly it's all men. It's not. And they've got no idea about gender and gender diversity. It was really awful. So are you prepared to be outed? It's better to be outed as a polyamorist than it is as a kinkster. Unfortunately, still, that's still the case, unless you're out and you're happy with it. When I could have private conversations, one of the cheer coaches had a baby she was very protective over, and she said, I need to talk to you about all of this, in a very serious voice. And I was like, sure. She went, well, we were at someone else's christening, which honestly, and in that christening as well, I was just really grateful the 3-year-old hadn't called the priest a cunt. That was quite shocking. She did very well. Her language was explosively blue, but we'd done very well. And then she said, oh, can I have a word? Yeah, of course you can. I knew what was coming, her and her husband, very concerned. I said, I'm sitting here, and they were just about to go off and get something from the buffet after this that had happened. They were putting out food. They go off, and I said, oh, leave me with Evie, I'll have her. And they went, no, she doesn't sleep on anyone else, and she really needs to sleep. And I was like, okay, well, then she won't sleep, but I'll have her. You can go and get your food. It's up to you. I'm not forcing myself on your baby. I went, oh, no, okay. Put her over my shoulder. I'm calm as fuck. She's asleep within 2 minutes. She's fast asleep. They come back and they go, oh, can't believe she slept on you. That's amazing. You must be some kind of whatever. I went, yeah. So what did you want to talk about? And I went to sit down. They went, don't sit down. I went, your child is asleep. Why can't I sit down? Well, she won't stay asleep. I went, she will. And I sat down, stayed asleep for 45 fucking minutes while we had this conversation. And they were asking about how dangerous it was, like, is everyone there a paedophile? I went, you do know we're talking about me as well? I went, yes, but you're different. No, I'm not. I said, and also you gave me your child. And you walked away from your child. So it's really interesting that the way people see it when it's out. What's your plans? What are you prepared for? How would it affect your work? How would it affect friendships, especially if you have religion around you? So many aspects to consider. And then what do we do if another partner gets pregnant? What do we do if another partner has their own problems? How much are we stepping in? How much do I help? What are the limits? What if somebody reveals 3 years down the line they've got a serious gambling debt? Can you give them 10 grand? I find it interesting when I speak to people and I say, well, you know, what are your limits or whatever? And a lot of people say, I haven't got any. And I go, give me your credit card and the PIN number. It's amazing they've got a limit immediately. Or give me 500 quid. I'm not fucking doing that. So you have got limits. We've all got limits. So we need to be practical about it. And then, you know, what is this person's mental health like? What's their physical health like? How are they? There's so much to work through that we don't think about. But at the end of the day, if it's something we want to do, you've just got to go ahead and do it as well when you've had quite a few conversations, because you can agree things in principle, but until it actually happens to you, that lived experience is really different, fundamentally different, because when you actually live through it and something happens, you go against half of your own rules or you put them in. And then I think vetoes are interesting as well. If you're polyamorous, do you have vetoes over who your partner sees or not, or where they are, or whether they're out for the night, or what that looks like? If both of us ended up in hospital at the same time, like I've got 4 daughters, and the first 2 were 18 months apart, then 2 years and just under 2 years. So they're all very close together, and you have to make decisions like, which one has the greatest need at this moment in time? Is it a shitty nappy or is it hunger? Well, it's going to be the shitty nappy. They've got a fucking urethra. I don't want them getting infections. I'm going to clean them up, and that person can wait for their snack for 5 minutes. You have to make decisions about hierarchy, whether you like it or not, what matters most at any one time. So if somebody's just broken their arm compared to somebody's in the hospital having a heart attack, which one do you choose? How do you, what rituals are you going to put in place to stay connected? How are you going to deal with the negative impact of new relationship energy? Does everyone know what new relationship energy is? So that energy you get when you meet someone new, you know, that fucking mental stuff. Falling in love is not normal. It is mental. The drugs that are in your system, the hormones, the lust and everything you feel isn't real. It's not normal. No one can keep it up. You cannot keep that feeling up. It'll die somewhere between 6 months to 2 years, and it might go on a bit more for some people. We then go through a very combative stage where we becomes me. We go like, fuck, I've been really ingrained. I didn't realise that your laugh is really annoying, or God, I fucking changed that. You're such a cunt. Why am I with you? And actually, most relationships won't make it through that stage to the mature, loving stage that we can get to, which takes different, that's we and me. So there's massive differentiation in this more combative stage, and most relationships don't make it through that. However, when you're the old partner, which you should never call anybody, by the way, existing partner, don't care what you say, they're your partner. Don't call them, don't put any title in front of that, because they are your partner. When you use words like my old partner, yeah, great, that's not very nice. So again, what titles, what are we going to say here? Maybe you want something that's exclusive just for the two of you. Maybe you want something that's just, I call someone daddy, but the other person gets master or sir, for example. So maybe we've got exclusivity. And it's really important to remember that often, when you're in that sort of situation, you might need something just for you. But when we're in new relationship energy, we make fucking idiotic decisions. Who here has made the most arse-wiping decision of their life when they're with someone new? A few times at least. We do it a lot. Stupid things that we do, and we're like, why the fuck did I do that? It's because love fucks you up. The drugs that are involved are absolutely mental, and they need to calm down in order for you to live. You cannot live with that high level of drugs in your system. So it needs to calm, and then we differentiate, and we learn how to communicate and come back together. But again, the most important thing is how we reconnect before we even do those things. Are we still connected? Do we have a relationship? You have to teach people how to argue and how to connect. So there are so many things I can think of when it comes to poly that we have to think of, and at the end of the day, you still kind of got to do it to see which ones hurt you. There was a FetLife post a couple of years ago where somebody had come home to their partner fucking their other partner in their living room, didn't have a problem with that, didn't care about the sex, didn't give a shit, walked in, looked at what was on the table and went, fuck, and had to walk away. Did anyone read that post? Ever? Do you know what was on the table? 2 wine glasses that were specially for them that were named for their anniversary. That was a betrayal for her when she walked in. She walked in and she went, oh my God, you've used our wine glasses. And she had to process that. She didn't give a shit that he'd just come inside her. Wasn't the sex. The betrayal was doing something that went against us that we had agreed. You went, well, there weren't any other glasses. Fucking drink out the bottle or wash some up then. Because you have to respect what you've got going on with your partner. And it's, again, those boundaries and those limits. What are they? And people misuse the word boundaries all the fucking time. You cannot put a boundary on somebody else. It doesn't exist. You will not come near me. I'm sorry, am I parting the waves or something? Like, no, he can come as near to me as he decides he wants to. My boundary is that's too fucking close and I'm going. A boundary is what you're willing to do. We can turn around and say, I'd prefer to have this and I'd prefer that. Maybe we can trust our partner. And what's interesting, though, is trust is developed over years, but it's broken in fucking moments. And what you will find sometimes, especially when couples open up, again, if they don't know their why properly, what are the ethics, the morals, the values around this? If one wants to do it more than the other, they're interested more, we're going along with it, you might end up with 3 or 4 rules. And as soon as that partner then changes those rules, these rules get longer and longer and longer and longer and longer because you're trying to control what's happening. And then they're saying, well, you're a fucking control freak. This is too much. Why so many rules? Because the rules were broken in the first place, which means the respect is often gone. So you have to do a lot of that as well. Did that answer enough? I think I've covered quite a lot. Anyone else got any hints or tips on polyamory that they would like to give? No?
Not polyamory, but what about people that are getting into kink who haven't been involved in it like you, and then they go a bit crazy?
Oh, okay. So people who get involved in kink who go a bit crazy, which we call frenzy. again, very, very hormonally based. Because when we do stuff like, so some people come into kink, again, why are we getting into kink? What is it we want from it? I ran a workshop last week on the role of trauma in kink. Some people come in to reenact trauma, some people don't. Some people think, oh, this is quite nice, I didn't think I'd like it. But actually, pain and the way pain is created with new relationship energy and a few other beautiful hormones that are going on in your body make this delicious soup for us to have. And we probably haven't had sex like that unless you've had a lot of vanilla sex on cocaine. It's a very similar principle on the brain, but kind of ruins your sex life generally then. That's the problem with that. So kink is we can often get, oh my God, this is amazing, I've got to do it. And we get into something called a frenzy. It does calm. Hopefully it calms with no damage to our existing relationships or other things as well. Do I think it's easy to get into? No. I've been looking for a partner who is dominant, who wants to have me as a cut queen, do all those other things, but can emotionally communicate and do all those other things, and is also single. Nah. The statistical likelihood of me finding a partner at 60 as a woman is single figures. It's really low, no matter what I offer. Men's, again, if we're going for two genders, if you look at the research, male ability to find a partner at 60 is at least tenfold mine. Tenfold as a woman. All these things are really interesting. So as we age out. Men don't age out on average. The submissive man might more than the dominant man. Because everybody goes, oh, silver fox, daddy bear. And you must have so much experience. The amount of people I've got so unpopular on FetLife when I've got a 20-year-old who's saying, but I just love the older man. He's so experienced in kink. He started 3 years ago, even though he's 40, for fuck's sake. Whereas that person might be 18 or they're 25. They've been doing it for 7. What is experience? What does it mean? I do think when we get into kink, we should go to workshops that teach about anatomy. I think you should understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. I think we need to do first aid. What the fuck do I do if my partner passes out? Because one of the most popular kinks is still controlling breathing. We go, oh, is that all right? Yeah, it's really sexy to choke someone out. So what do you do if they actually die on you or they're passed out? What's your next? When I'm dealing with someone experienced, I'll often say to them, what have you done when something's gone wrong? Fucking hell. If someone turns around and says to me, nothing's ever gone wrong, I'll go, okay. I can give you 100 stories of where things have gone majorly wrong. One specifically including a whisk and a coil. Walked into a hotel room with a pillowcase over my head. Why would I ask if somebody had a fucking balloon whisk in their toy bag? It's beyond me, I didn't. But I can tell you, when that balloon whisk got entangled with my coil and he pulled, you can imagine the rest. I went straight to hospital. The blood was unbelievable. So I can tell you horror stories. So I think we need to learn about consent, negotiation, about the impact. It's not just sex and play. It's a lot more than that. How do I turn someone's mind on? And somebody isn't a kink dispenser. Somebody doesn't owe you anything. They don't have to do anything with you, for you, because of you, even if you're dominant. Even if it doesn't matter who you are or what you've got. So I think frenzy is a really normal hormonal response that we have with the new relationship energy, with the new sex that we're experiencing, mixing all these things together. It's also very hard to differentiate or disassociate your emotions from a lot of that as well. That's another dangerous thing. I also think as well, most of us don't know our own boundaries before we come into kink, and then we get in that frenzy, and then we can get easily manipulated. Anyone here ever been told at least once in their kink life that a good submissive would do this? I have many times. Or if you loved me, you would. If you adored me and you respected me as your top, this is normal. Is it fuckers like? It's not. It's all about our negotiation and not breaking our boundaries. I'm on field. I can't tell you the amount of people, who don't read, because some of them are like 20. I'm like, oh, come on. I'd eat you for breakfast. I'd shit you out and you still wouldn't know what happened to you. Absolutely not. I'm 60, for fuck's sake. No. Age doesn't matter. Yes, it does if it matters to you. And I'm not here to teach. I don't want to do those things. I have very strong boundaries about what is it I want to do. But there again, when you're with somebody new, we're forever learning. When you meet somebody new, it's new. So you're learning with them different ways of doing things. So I think you've just got to really, really work out your boundaries, what you're into, and the impact of that. I do think a very simple exercise is the 5 5s. How will I feel about this in 5 hours? How will I feel about this in 5 days? How will I feel about this in 5 weeks, 5 months, and 5 years? Because when you are turned on, you never think about the consequence in that moment. That's the time when you have unprotected sex, when you say, yes, break all my limits. David's a really good example of that, actually, Cosmic. He was seeing a woman quite a few years ago. She was French and she was a lesbian. She did not want sex with him, but they were playing together. It's a very strong boundary, very strong boundary. In the middle of a session, out of nowhere, she turns around and she says, just fuck me. Fuck me now. It's very tempting, isn't it? I'm just going to fuck her now. Him and I will have many an argument over many things in life. I will always respect him for this particular bit because he said, Red, we're stopping. If you can make that decision when you are sober and over the next few days, then we can start with that. But I'm not doing that. So, it's the frenzy that we get into makes us make really bad decisions. I gave people a warning a couple of years ago. One of my clients, she had made it very clear that she only wanted protected, safe sex. Stealthing is rape. It's classified as rape in the UK. Stealthing is if you slip the condom off and you don't tell your person that you are penetrating. It's really shocking to think that that carries on a load more than we actually know, and it does. And the problem is she had agreed this and said very clearly, do not fuck me without a condom. But in the middle of her massive endorphin, massive dopamine, everything rush that she got, she said, do whatever the fuck you want with me. And he did. He slipped the condom off. That's not what she meant, is it? That was a moment. And so I tell everybody, when you are negotiating things, you need to write down and say, regardless of what I say in the moment, these are my hard limits. Do not break them. No matter how much I beg, cry, want, or say, because it's really easy to break them. We've still got retroactive withdrawal of consent. Has that ever happened to anyone? Where somebody you're with consents to something, or you consent to something, maybe, but then afterwards you go, fuck. Now, I'm not talking about force, I'm not talking about assault, and I'm not talking about coercion. I'm talking about that feeling of, oh, I don't think I should have done that, or I wish I hadn't done that. And then somebody maybe accuses and says, and at the moment, we live in a world, if you have an accusation, good luck with that, because there's no smoke without fire, or that it's very believed, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely need to believe people and people's perception of things. But we've still got to be very careful if we then say that somebody really actively did that with intent and maybe hurt us. Anyone here ever fucked a human in front of them with 2 holes, a cunt and an arse? Anyone here ever slipped in the arse by accident and maybe ripped their banjo more than anything or whatever? It happens to quite a high percentage of people. It's not an assault or an attack. It was an accident, a fucking awful accident. But again, I think you've got to have your boundaries very clearly, implicitly stated about what's okay and what isn't. And honestly, if you are producing sperm as a human being, wrap it. Because that person can say they're on all sorts of contraception and all sorts of different things as well. But if they have the capacity, like maybe you've got a breeding fetish or something, I really want to breed you. Yeah, it's a lovely fetish until you've got a baby in front of you that you've got to look after for the next 60 years as your child or whatever. And anyone here on oral contraception, right? A lot of people are. Oral contraception, fantastic. Yeah, but it works. I just take the pill every night. I just take it. No, if you've got an upset stomach, if you vomited, the whole month is out. And most people don't realise these sorts of things. And then we say condoms are really safe. They do have a high percentage. Do you know exactly how you're supposed to withdraw from a hole when you've come inside a condom? What's the rule? Do you know it? Hold the fucking base. And you know, if you don't hold the base of the condom, it takes the condom's efficiency down by over 12 fucking %. And that is not often what we would choose to do. If the condom's got a very high percentage, depending on which one you're using, often in the high 90s, 99 odd, takes it down to 80, 87, 88, something like that. You would think twice about that potentially. You go, oh, it's 99%, so I'm going to be careful. So again, we've got to be really careful. But most of us think, oh, it's fine, there's a condom there, it's fine. Did anybody, don't put your hands up, because I'm not trying to embarrass or shame anyone. But like, if you didn't know that you're supposed to hold the base, that's how much the efficiency is decreased by. It's quite shocking, really, and we're in a moment or whatever, we don't know. So we also need the right size. A lot of people don't get that as well. You need the right size condom that fits you, and you need to put it on the right way, and God, there's so many things to it. And actually, it's really interesting as well when we talk about risk. If I talk about throat cancer, is throat cancer a problem related to anything we do? HPV. What's the biggest cause of throat cancer in the last 20 years? Smoking. Is it still the biggest cause of throat cancer? No. A blowjob is. The highest risk factor comes from a blowjob now. Just shifted last year in the statistics. Biggest reason, because with HPV, it's fascinating. But we don't know these things and we go out and think, oh, it's all okay. But there are big things to think about. So I think it's really hard because you're fighting against all those fucking hormones that are going mad because it's really exciting and new and interesting, but you do have to think long term as well. Do you think about future you at all? Like, you know, anyone here around the age of 20? Have you started your pension yet? Yeah, because if you don't start your pension at the age of 20, you're kind of fucked later. But a lot of us don't go, oh, it's fine, I'll be 60, I'll be 70, it's then. I'll worry about it. No, but we don't think about future me because we've got the present living that we want to do, and it's the same with kink and sex and everything else. So I think it's really good. I'll always tell people to write their own Haynes manual for anyone who's really older here. Cars, bikes used to come with a Haynes manual, and it told you everything you needed to know about that car. How to change a tyre, how to start it, how to do this, how to do that. I've written my own about me. And again, I say this every time. It's a bit much on a first date if you go, here's my manual. That's a bit nuts. Don't do that. But if you've got that consistency of answers there and somebody's interested, so I've written a little bit about that. Do you want to have a look? And you send them a little something. Because it keeps you accountable for what your ethics, morals, and values and goals are. Because interestingly, we often, especially in kink, go, oh my God, you've got the same kink as me. We're compatible. Are you fuckers like? You've just got the same kink. It's your ethics, your morals, and your values that make you compatible. It really is. Like, what are your politics? What do you think about this? What do you think about relationships? They're very different conversations. And again, when we're opening up to poly, we have to think about that. Because if you all of a sudden meet a staunch Trump supporter, if you're one, that's fine. There's the door. No, kidding. Sorry. I don't want conversations with people who might think it's funny that somebody's grave got desecrated just because they've got the same kink as me. That doesn't match for me. And we have to think about that. Spoke to a guy recently, got some, oh my God, compatible things. He's telling us how amazing we would be together. And then he tells me something. What does he tell me? I ask, because he likes innocence, corrupting innocence. How young would you go then? Let's say I'm completely open-minded. How young would you go? His answer was 13. Don't think we have the same morals. Don't think we have the same ethics or values or anything about life that would make us work. But do I encourage talking to some people like that? Oh my God, people out themselves very quickly. As a mum of 4 daughters, I even met somebody when my daughters were younger whose philosophy was, well, if we're in the kitchen and you are giving me a blowjob, what would you do if one of your kids came in? Number 1, That's never going to happen because my kids will never be at risk of walking into the kitchen, so I wouldn't give you a blowjob. Might go in the utility room, you hang up the wash for me, I'll gladly suck your cock while you're doing that or whatever. That's a joke, but those sorts of things. But his principle was, no, you just carry on. I don't think so. So it's really interesting. We think the world, especially the kink world, is full of very ethical, great people, and it's not. You have to learn to sniff people out to find things and just not get involved with your kink. You need to make sure that your other ethics and morals are met as well, which sounds fucking sanctimonious, really. Look, if you're meeting someone for a good night, you just want one good night, who really gives a shit? You might afterwards, though. You might. And maybe you won't. And that's great if you had a good night. Listen, my figures are fucking high, really high. They're more towards 1,000 than they are 500. The amount of partners and sexual things that I've done and tried. I have no regrets, no shame about any of it. And I've been really careful, not lucky. I've been really careful about protecting myself in different ways. And sometimes you can only do so much, and it's also gone wrong. Terrible things happen. So you just got to make sure of your safety as much as you can and not having regrets, because that's also pretty awful in kink. And often I think when couples open up, they think the grass is greener on the other side. Now, technically and scientifically it is. But if you go over to the other side, your grass is also greener. Dog shit still needs picking up. Weeds still need sorting. You still need to test the chalk. You still need to do all those things. But a lot of us aren't willing to put the work in and create connection. Anyone here got a long-term partner? Like 3 months, 6 months, a year or whatever? You know, when it fades and we have different times in our relationships, a lot of us forget that we started off in a way that it wasn't easy. You knew you were going to have sex on a Tuesday and a Thursday because that's when you met them. So you got ready, you got dressed up, but then you drift into living together and nobody dresses up or does anything anymore, or you haven't had a shower, or you're too tired, or all of these things. And it's not just about sex, it's just about connection. All the rituals that we used to have just go. Whereas when we see someone once or twice a week, we really appreciate them and we tell them and go, oh my God, you look beautiful. Oh, thanks. Feel good. Fuck me, you're so fucking hot. Can't wait to rip your clothes off, or oh my God, I can't wait till we play or do something. We appreciate each other. But when we get into longer term relationships, all of that, for most people, most of the time, dies out or stops. We need to make a mental effort to keep it going. We need a date night. We need to schedule in sex, actually. But I don't necessarily mean penis and vagina. I mean sexual connection. That we hold hands, that we do something that's still very connecting. And we need to put that in our diaries. But most people go, why would I? But you did when you dated. When you met on the Monday and the Friday, you often did something physical that connected you. And it doesn't even have to be physical. You can write appreciation diaries. You can send notes to each other. There's lots of things that you can do. And we're teaching people that everyone's so individual nowadays, and this is an unpopular opinion, but we're getting this really wrong, they're your emotions, you need to deal with them, off you go, that's nice, you're having a bad time. No, human beings need co-regulation. We should be there in our parts and emotions and help them through them. You're not codependent, that's co-regulation. That's how babies thrive. That's how babies cope with pain. That's how humans cope with pain. Just the holding and the touching. Like, for example, if I held my hands out now and gave you a screaming baby, you cannot drop it, by the way. You take this screaming baby. Which side do you put it on your body, the left or the right? Where would you? So you just tapped yourself, right, naturally, and so did you. You said left. You said left. So people naturally, you get the odd person who goes to the right. It's not right or wrong, but why do you think most of us instinctively go to the left? Because it's where your heart is. And the child hears your heartbeat. And when they hear a heartbeat, if your heartbeat is calm, it regulates them. Now, I can't pick you up if you're feeling really stressed because you're taller than me. It's a lot harder, but I can pull you in. I can do a lot of things. And some people go, don't touch me, don't hug me. That's all right as well. It varies. But co-regulation is fucking important, but it's really missed, really, really missed in a lot of relationships nowadays of, oh, you're having a hard time, but what about me? Like, no, let's just deal with that person for now. But a lot of us don't want to do that because we're taught that No, they're your feelings, you sort them out. That's your problem, you sort it out. Got to be a team. Whether you're a throuple, 4, 5, 6, don't care. Just got to be a team. It's great, if anything. Think of that many people on your side, it can be quite nice. Actually, one of the things I do think about polyamory as well that I didn't mention earlier is what is your breakup etiquette and clause when somebody breaks up with you but not your partner, if you're both with the same person? Because I had that. The triad that I was talking about, she broke up with him. We stayed together for an extra 2 years after that. That's quite tough. So she's broken up with him, I'm still with her. That's tough. What are you going to do about that? I've got some clients at the moment who have been in a 4, both married to each other. This one's married to this one, this one's married to this one. This one has broken up with this one, but is still with this one. This one is with this one. And everyone's saying, but now you should break up with that one because he's abusive. Not in her experience, he isn't. Now what do you do? It just is very, you think, oh, that won't happen. Yeah, it does. Happens more than you think as well, really does. Yes?
Say to someone who never gets themselves into permanent situations.
So somebody who never gets themselves into permanent situations. Oh, God, that's difficult, isn't it? So, like, if we're quite autistic, we might not want a permanent situation. It's too overwhelming unless we can meet somebody who can respect our boundaries and work differently. And if somebody doesn't want a permanent situation, again, it's the why. If it's avoidance, or if there's something going on, or there's unresolved trauma, then that all needs looking at. But if that person doesn't want to look at it and they're quite content with their life, why should they look at it? It's a bit like if you've got OCD and you tap the table 3 times before you leave a room. That's fine. It's not really bothering, is it? But if you forget to do it and you've got home and you have to get back on the fucking tube and come all the way over here just to tap the table 3 times, that's impacting your life. So for me, it's about how much impact, but it's also about the why. What else is there? I've met a lot of people who've come into my therapy room and they'll say things that I remember one woman once said, her hand was near enough in my face. She went, don't tell me that my anorexia is anything to do with my childhood. I went, okay. I won't. What if you bring it up, though? She went, well, I will not. I went, no, but just let's talk hypothetically. If you ever bring it up, can we talk about it then? She went, well, yes. Guess what it was? It was all to do with it. That was horrific trauma in her childhood that was unreal when you started to hear all of it. But it's amazing. You decide who you are before the age of 5 in so many ways, psychologically. And you've kind of got, I don't believe that we are linear. We don't leave our 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old behind. I believe that we are like tree rings. We have genetics, we have epigenetics, we have in utero experience, we have family and environment, and then we're born. And then every part of us is a ring that grows. We are one thing, and that's still a massive part of us. Whereas if you think it's been left behind, I think that's very naive because we've incorporated it. We might be ignoring it, we might not be growing from it, and some of our rings are impermeable and some of our rings are too permeable, and we might need to change that. And maybe not wanting to be with anybody very seriously or getting involved might be part of that, but it might also be a neurodivergent decision. It might be many things. So for me, it's the why. What are we frightened of? And I don't believe, I have a really weird concept around trust. I don't have to trust you at all. If you go and lie to me or cheat or go against our rules, that's a you problem. It's not a me problem. I've got to trust myself. Can I get over that? Will I be okay? And it doesn't mean I won't cry. It doesn't mean I won't be wailing and gnashing or planning your death with an icicle because it's got less DNA on it or something. It doesn't mean I won't be having those thoughts, but I trust that I will be okay. So actually, it doesn't really matter what you do because I trust that I will be okay. So I guess another tack I would take is, do you have the self-belief and the trust that you can survive if you feel that something is devastating to your core? Does it break you if somebody leaves you? When we've got that very strong fear of abandonment or not being okay in our history. I mean, in the UK, it's like 52% of the UK, roughly, it changes every year slightly, has a secure attachment. 48% of the UK does not have a secure attachment. That's 50-50 really, isn't it? So the statistical chances are you meet people who don't have secure attachments. And if you've got people who are avoidant, or you've got people who are very needy and wanting, I mean, put those two together, that's a fucking nightmare, isn't it? Like, I was listening to a couples expert the other day, and he talks about a hailstorm and a turtle. So he's like, some of us have a hailstorm. Right, we need to talk about it. I'm really overwhelmed. We've got to. And it's like, whoa. And the other person's a turtle. And they go, fuck, I'm going back into my shell because that shit's too much for me. And the more this person withdraws, the more the hailstorm is banging on the shell, going, come out and talk, or come and sort it. Or they're getting really. And we wonder why it's not working. Well, because we've got different fighting styles and different coping mechanisms. It's all about learning to respect the different coping mechanisms. And I would argue that if we're avoidant, we're more of a turtle in the way that we deal with things. Maybe we've been taught that way, or maybe that's the way that we've seen. Mirror neurons, environment, and then we've got the epigenetics and the bits that I was talking about earlier as well. So for me, it's a big why. But God, unless you don't want your bones scraping out, never come to me as your therapist, because that's the way I work. I'm after your bone marrow. I'm quite challenging, put it that way. I'm not, oh, that sounds tough. I'm like, why the fuck did you do that? Let's talk about it. Very different. Anyway, so we're near enough done. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming and listening, and I hope everyone's got a little something from today. Thank you.